Hello. My name is Leslie Alcantar. I am from the TFMA program. I graduated 22 and I started in 2018. I did not know who MrBeast was until I was actively in college. So I think I discovered him like my freshman or sophomore year, and I just thought he was really cool because um, he's the kind of YouTuber that likes to give stuff away a lot, and that to me was very important because you don't see that very often. And so I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to like be able to do something like that someday or like work for him someday and like learn from it. Because I just thought it was very cool. And then obviously I was studying film, and so I've always been into media and all that jazz. And then my senior year hit, and senior years when you're like, okay, gotta find a job now. I gotta think about what I actually want to do with this degree. And I was like, okay, well, I either want to do like TV shows, or I want to do movies, or I want to do YouTube. But YouTube is still so new. Like I feel like it's only just now becoming more seen as a career path versus 10 years ago when I was first growing up with it, where it was still seen taboo and people didn't understand what a YouTuber even was. So my senior year, I was just like, what if I just Google MrBeast jobs for fun? And a website popped up, and it was like a legit MrBeast like website. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. And so they had a bunch of positions open. They still have that website, it's still being used if anyone wants to go check it out. Um, but I went on and I scrolled through it to see if I was able to do any of them. And I worked there as an assistant editor, but I actually didn't apply to be one. They have an open submission form. And on that form, it was like, if you think we're missing a role that you think you'd be a good fit for, let us know. And so that's what I did, because when I was at film school, when was at Temple, I actually did a lot of location sound recording for a lot of short films for students when I was there. And so I was like, okay, well, from my experience of that, I've learned that a lot of the time it's just one person doing that sound job. And I found it was so helpful to have an assistant with you or have a second person helping with sound. And so that's what I pitched. I was like, hey, I know from watching a couple videos that like you only have one sound person, and from experience, having a second person helps. Like, if you ever need a second person, like I would love to be a location sound assistant. And so that's what I applied for back in like March. And I spent hours typing this cover letter up because I wanted this. I was like, this would be so cool. Like, out of everything I've applied to, this is what I really, really want. Did not hear back until July. So this was after I had graduated. I was still job hunting. I was back home. I was working at a pizza shop at the time, stressed out of my mind because it's like I didn't have a car and I didn't have a lot of money. And so I was like, I can't move out. I can't drive to work. I need something more remote. And so in July, I wake up one day to like this email being like, oh, we'd love to interview you, but for assistant editing. And I was like, ah, okay, perfect. Because the second thing I would do a lot besides location sound recording is I would edit. And so I knew how to do it. I took several classes at school, and I had just been an assistant editor for a student film called Sheet Music at the time. And so I was like, okay, this is perfect timing. And so I did the interview. It went very well. And they were like, yeah, for sure. We'll hire you. And I was like, oh my God, crazy. And it worked out really well because they offer transportation, and then there's a 3-month trial period to make sure that you like the area, because you have to move to North Carolina. But while you're there, they provide you with housing for those 3 months. So I didn't have to pay for 3 months. And then if you need transportation, they'll provide you with a rental car for those 3 months. And I was like, the most perfect opportunity I can possibly have right now, because I didn't have a lot of money, I didn't have a car, and they're providing it for me for at least 3 months. And I was like, this is perfect. And so I took the job and I loved it. And I was there for 2 years, and it was a lot of work, if I'm being honest. It's which is common in this industry. You work very long hours. There's a lot of commitments you have to do, a lot of sacrifices you have to make. And so ultimately, one of the reasons why I left was I want more of a work-life balance. But I did like genuinely loved my time there, and I learned so much, so much. while I was there. Yeah, so I was a main channel assistant editor. So anything outside of like that, like the social media vertical content, I wasn't a part of. So yeah, just main channel stuff. If you've seen the videos, I worked on them to some extent. But basically, as an assistant editor, all the media went through DIT, and then it went to us. And so our job was to sort through hundreds of hours of footage and just cut it down into maybe an hour to hand off to the editors, and then they would take the edit over from there. Which some videos are easy, like if you see our obstacle course video from this year, that one was an easy video because it had like certain segments already built out, and there's under 20 cameras, which is already an insane amount of cameras to begin with, and it's easier to see all those angles at once versus our 1 versus 100 video where it was 100 people and we had over 300 cameras for that. And so that's just an insane amount of footage for us to have to look through and sort through and watch, especially because this kind of content isn't really scripted. We can't control how people react or do. We don't pick a winner, you know, it just kind of happens. And so we have to watch it all and make sure we find all the best moments because we don't know what's going to happen.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of cameras.
Yeah,
Oh my
so
God.
many cameras. They have me contracted right now, and there's like 15 cameras on the video I'm working on, which is little for Beast, you know? And if you think about it, like traditional media has maybe 2 to 3 camera setups, and you know, that easy compared to what I'm used to doing. I know they're making a YouTuber video right now, and I can't say that much about it, but I
Oh yeah.
can say that it's a YouTuber video because Jimmy did post about it on Twitter. And that was technically it was my final. Well, actually, yeah, technically speaking, that's my final video. It's not posted yet. I think it's supposed to come out in July. But that one was very special to me. One, because it was my last video, and two, we had a lot of YouTubers in the studio, and so just like seeing people that like I recognized was just so cool to me. That was crazy. I thought, because when I had put in my notice, we hadn't broken that record yet. Like T Series was still in front of us, and T Series, for those that don't know, is who held that record previously. And so I thought I wasn't gonna make it in time because we were betting. Me and my coworkers had literally had bets on the whiteboard about when we thought we were gonna pass. I ended up winning. But I didn't think we were gonna pass because we were growing so slowly compared to the year before. And so when we did pass it, and this happened at like 9 p.m., so I was already out of office at that point. But it was just crazy going into work the next day and being like, oh, we're the #1 YouTube channel in the world. That's crazy. I would say the editing classes, because I was on a general track that didn't have a concentration because at the time I didn't really know if I wanted to specialize in a field. And when you have a concentration, you are kind of restricted to certain classes, and I wanted to be able to learn a little bit of everything. So because I ended up going into more of a post-production side of things, I think the editing classes ended up being so helpful. But also just I took some screenwriting classes, and knowing storytelling is also insanely helpful when it comes to post-production. The city, I missed Philadelphia so much. I loved the location of it. Network. Oh my gosh, networking is so important. And I feel like everyone says it, but you don't realize how important it is until you're outside of school. It's all about connections. You know, obviously experience is also everything, but if you know the right people, you can get a job easier. Get as much experience as you can. I feel like as much as I learned from my classes at Temple, I learned a lot about what it's like to be on set and how to work with people and set lingo by being on set. So if you're entering the TFMA program, you know, definitely, you know, join clubs. Like I was at Temple Smash, I did Wandering Studios, like join that, interact with these people, and that's how you'll become friends with them and get to be on their film sets, because eventually, and everyone has to do a film at some point, and so they need help, and so that's how you get experience where, oh hey, you need an editor, like let me edit it for you, and that's experience, and that builds up, and that's important. I still want to be in YouTube. My love for YouTube has just grown so much because I grew up watching it, and I feel like my inner child is just like screaming that I get to now work for people that make content like that, and it's very exciting. And so I do want to work more in YouTube, but I am trying to move away from like beast style channels and more into like food related content, like food reviews or like recipe making, or content oriented for a female audience, so stuff like unboxing videos and like fashion hauls and stuff like that. That's all stuff that I watched more of growing up, and so I just want to be able to work on that type of content now. Go Owls!